Alright, ladies and gentlemen, today we are going to be looking at run-on sentences as part of our grammar time series. So this is lesson number 6, run-on sentences. There are two types of run-on sentences that we're going to be evaluating. The first type is the comma splice, and the second type is called a fused sentence. So what do these two run-on sentences look like? Let's take a look. Well, first of all, the splice. The comma splice occurs when two complete sentences. Now, remember, two complete sentences have independent clauses, or they consist of independent clauses. And so they're joined together or spliced by a comma. So an example looks like this. So here's two examples. Yogurt may be good for you. Poutine is not. This film is boring. It has no plot. Okay, so yogurt may be good for you. That is our independent clause. Poutine is not. Poutine is not is also kind of an independent clause in this case, and they are joined by a comma. Okay, so we're going to be looking at how to fix these now in a second. Okay, so there's also fused sentences. So a fused sentence occurs when two complete sentences are joined together with no punctuation between them. So yogurt may be good for you, poutine is not, all in one sentence without punctuation. This film is boring, it has no plot. So these are fused sentences. Okay, we see two kind of independent thoughts or independent clauses, but they're joined together without any punctuation, just kind of fused together, hence the name fused sentences. Okay, so here's some ways to fix it. Number one, let's make the independent clauses into separate sentences. Number one would be, yogurt may be good for you. Poutine is not. Now, poutine is not, there is both a subject and a predicate. Poutine is the subject, is not as the predicate, and we're kind of insinuating, or we're also kind of inferring that poutine is not good for you. Okay, so it's connected. And the second example, this film is boring, it has no plot. Okay, so these are, that's one way of how we can fix it. We make them separate sentences. The second way we can fix it is to separate the independent clause with a comma and using one of these words. Okay, so yogurt may be good for you, but poutine is not. So you can see that we can use the words and, but, or, nor, for, so, or, yet, following the comma. So here's another example. This film is boring, comma, for it has no plot. Okay, so that's ways that we can separate independent clauses while retaining the comma. So we keep the comma, but we add these words. Fix number 3. Make one clause dependent on the other by adding one of the independent clause cues that we've studied previously. Okay, so we've learned about this already, but here's how we can make it into kind of a sentence that makes sense. Example 1, yogurt may be good for you, although poutine is not. So in this case, although is one of those dependent clause cues that we've added in to make the sentence make sense. And the second one is, the film is boring because it has no plot. So in this example, we used because as a way of linking the sentences together. Fix number 4, the use of a semicolon. So use a semicolon either by itself or with a transitional expression to separate the independent clauses. So you can take two independent clauses and you link the ideas together using a semicolon. So the semicolon always denotes or always kind of indicates that the first independent clause and the second independent clause are connected somehow. So they share commonalities, or they share something in common, or they're talking about the same kind of thing. So yogurt may be good for you, semicolon, poutine is not. Poutine is not and yogurt may be good for you are connected because they're talking about things that are good for you. So yogurt is good for you, poutine is not, they're connected, therefore you can connect it with a semicolon. This film is boring, and then for one thing it has no plot. So in this case I kind of added into the sentence to make it kind of make sense. And so you have, this film is boring, that's a full sentence or independent clause. For one thing, it has no plot, is an independent clause, and we've connected them using a semicolon. Okay, so now we're going to take a look at some exercises together, and you'll be kind of clued into when you should pause the video and when we'll do some correcting. So we're going to do 3 exercises together, and I'll give you some of the rundown of the answers. All right, kiddos, so we're going to take a look at our first exercise today. The sentences in the following exercise will give you practice in fixing comma, splices, and fuse sentences. So what you're going to need to do is you're going to correct the sentences where necessary, and then check your answers. Since there are several ways to fix each sentence, your answers will probably vary and be different. From our suggestions, however, as long as it's done correctly, you're okay. So if you're confused about when to use a semicolon or when to use a period, be sure just to check the other lessons that we've already gone through. Okay, so I'm going to give you an opportunity to pause the video here and work on the first exercise, and then we'll go through correcting these together. All right, so I've given you a chance now to go over the exercise, and we're going to correct them now together. Okay, so number 1, the office is closed today. It will reopen tomorrow. So in this sentence, we have 2 dependent clauses which are linked incorrectly by a comma. What we need to do here, since there's 2 sentences, we can say the office is closed today, and this would be a period, and then make it will reopen tomorrow into a full sentence by itself. I realize that looks really ugly, but you get the point. Okay, number 2. I love playing hockey, but I'll never master the game until I learn to skate backwards. Okay, so here what we need to do in order to correct it is it's actually missing a comma. So I love to play hockey, comma, but I'll never master the game until I learn to skate backwards. Because but I'll never master the game until I learn to skate backwards is a dependent clause. We can link it together using the comma with I love to play hockey, which is a full sentence. Okay, number 3. Don't let your worries kill you. Let the church help. Okay, and this is a sign outside a church, just in case you were wondering. Now, all we need to do here is we have 2 full sentences linked together by a comma. We can just put a period and make this a capital letter, and we're done. Don't let your worries kill you. Let the church help. Okay, number 4. I need a new monitor for my computer. This one is too small. Now, there's a couple things that you can do here. You have 2 kind of full thoughts. I need a new monitor for my computer. That could be a sentence. And this next portion, one is too small. There's a couple options that you can do here, but the first that I would suggest would be to insert a because in there. So I need a new monitor for my computer. This one is too small. If you want to use a semicolon instead, that also works. Okay, so there's multiple ways to fix it, but these are just some suggestions. Number 5, that's the dumbest joke I've ever heard. It doesn't make sense. Okay, so again, now we've used 2 independent clauses and in a sentence and linked them by a comma. The second portion of that sentence is connected to the first one, so the best way to really rectify or fix the situation is instead to turn the comma into a semicolon. Okay, number 6. She used her new camera, which is fully automatic and almost foolproof, to take pictures of the opening ceremony at the new residence. If you fix that, you didn't really need to, because that sentence is actually correct, and it's used commas correctly. Okay, now so we're on to number 7. And number 7 says, "You'll love our new bikinis. They are simply the tops." That's a weird kind of thought. I'm glad they have tops and bottoms. So let's just fix the sentence. Now, the first part and the second part are independent clauses. Okay, so they could be sentences on their own. So what you need to do here is just break them up into simple sentences. So, you'll love our new bikinis, period. They are simply the tops. Okay, so break it up with a period. Number 8, while you're vacuuming, don't forget to clean under the beds. Goodness knows what horrors lurk under there. So there's a couple ways of fixing it. Here's the one I suggest. While you're vacuuming, don't forget to clean under the beds. I would make that a full sentence, and then I would make this a sentence. Goodness knows what horrors lurk under there. Number 9, smoking is banned in all restaurants in Ottawa. Private clubs may permit smoking only if no employees and no members of the general public are presented. Okay, so again, we have two independent clauses, but they are connected. There is a tie into them. The private clubs may permit smoking only if no employees and no members of the general public are present. That can be connected to the first sentence, and so if they're two independent but connected in terms of theme and in terms of content sentences, then we can use a semicolon. Thus so. Number 10. Contrast today's medical care with what patients experienced 20 years ago, and you'll be amazed. The good old days weren't very good at all. Okay, this one's a little bit tricky, and so what I would do is I would take contrast today's medical care with what patients experienced 20 years ago, and you'll be amazed. I would take that as a full sentence. And then I would start off the next sentence with a capital letter for the good old days weren't very good at all. Okay. All right, so now that you've corrected your work, we're going to move on to the next exercise. All right, so for this next exercise, some of the items in the following exercise contain more than two independent clauses. So they will be kind of more challenging to revise, but we will try our best. Okay, so I would like you to pause the video here and work on this exercise on your own. All right, so let's go through some of these answers together. The first one, start every day with a smile. I added a comma and. That's confusing. Okay, so smile, comma, and get it over with. So start every day with a smile, comma, and get over with it. Number 2, I can copy the picture on my scanner, but I can't send it to you by fax, period. I don't have a fax. Number 3, when the school closes for the day, it's up to me to make sure everything is properly accounted for, period. I don't mind, semicolon. In fact, I like the responsibility. Number 4, there are many definitions of success, period, capital M for most, emphasize money or fame, but the best emphasize happiness. Actually, it should be but the best. Let's add a but in there. Okay. Number 5. My Aunt Mildred is unbelievably old-fashioned, period. She doesn't have a cell phone or iPod, semicolon. Furthermore, she listens to radio broadcasts instead of watching satellite TV. Number 6, I don't mind going to work in the morning, and I don't mind coming home at night, period. It's the 8 hours in between that I can't stand. That's not true of our job at all. We enjoy being at work, so that's a fictitious sentence. Number 7, moving on. Canadian railway engineers have a long-standing tradition of signaling at level crossings by blowing their whistles or horns in a distinctive pattern. Semicolon. The blasts are Morse code for the letter Q. Now, you could have, instead of using the semicolon, it would have been grammatically correct to just make it a period and then make the blasts are Morse code for the letter Q as a sentence. However, because the second independent clause is connected to the first, it should be a semicolon. Number 8, some people are predicting a worldwide disaster when avian flu spreads to the general population, period. They say we can expect a pandemic like the one that killed millions in 1918. Okay. Number 9. My grandmother started walking 5 miles a day when she was 60, period. She is 93 today, and we don't have a clue where she is. That is upsetting. Number 10. My new digital camera has so many features it scares me, period. When I turn it on, it asks me questions about what I want to shoot, comma, but by the time I answer the questions, the subject has moved away. Okay. How sad. Okay, so that concludes our second exercise, which we have corrected together. Now, we will move on to our kind of final exercise that we'll be covering together, and then you'll have some homework to do. Okay, so for this exercise, you're going to correct 10 run-on errors any way you choose. This would be a good time to review the 4 solutions to run-ons highlighted that we've already looked over. So just pay attention, because your goal is to produce a paragraph in which sentences are both correct and effective. Now you're going to compare your revisions to the suggestions that we have for you. You should pause the video here so you can work on this exercise on your own, and then I will go over the answers with you shortly. Okay, let's go through some of these answers together. The most popular attraction in Derby Line, Vermont, is a theater in which audiences are sitting in the U.S. watch performances on stage in Canada. Okay, there should be a period here, okay, in the capital. The theater's unique location is responsible for this unusual aspect of the entertainment. The building straddles the border between Vermont and Quebec, semicolon. A black stripe painted on the floor marks the official dividing line between the two countries. Constructed early in the last century, the building is divided both geographically and functionally. And what we should do here is we should make this a new sentence. Let's pretend that says it in lowercase. So functionally, period, it is a library as well as a theater. The library is on the ground floor, and the theater is upstairs. Okay, so we need to fix that. And the theater is upstairs. Okay, period, capital C. Called the Haskell Free Library and Opera House, most of the building, including the library and the stage, is in Quebec, comma. The entrance to the building is in Vermont. We need to also add while to that part. Okay. A Canadian woman, Martha Stewart Haskell, not to be mistaken for the Martha Stewart that was arrested, built the structure as a tribute to her American husband, and she donated it jointly to the communities on either side of the border. The library is indeed free. Okay, we need to add a semicolon there. Its services are paid for by box office receipts for the theatrical performances. Now we need to correct this as well, okay, because this is a sentence. Period, capital O. Over the past 100 years, some famous performers have appeared on stage, including the Colombian minstrels, who opened the theater in 1904. Recently renovated, the Haskell Free Library and Opera House continues to make its collection of 20,000 books available at no charge to residents of its cross-border communities. Patrons of the Opera House must purchase tickets for the first-rate theatrical performances offered each season. Okay, so just in reviewing, I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 corrections, which means that I am human and I also missed 2. Now where can they be? Okay, I see one right here. Recently renovated, the Haskell Free Library and Opera House continues to make its collection of 20,000 books available at no charge to residents of its community, cross-border communities. But patrons of the Opera House must purchase. Okay, so that's another mistake that we found. Okay, and then I just found another one. So it is a library as well as a theater. The library is on the ground floor. So this needs to be right here, a semicolon, because it's two independent clauses and they're connected. Great, so now we have 10, and that concludes our corrections. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Great, so you should have made those corrections on your own. And if you did, good for you. And if you didn't, watch the video again. Okay, kiddos, so this is the final exercise which you will have for homework. Your task is as follows. The following exercise contains all 4 kinds of sentence structure error you've studied so far. So that includes missing piece fragments, dependent clause fragments, comma splices, fused sentences. What I would like you to do is work through the sentences slowly and carefully and then compare your revisions with the things that your teachers suggest. Okay, so take some time, work on this homework, and best of luck, and we'll check it in a little bit.